Wow, so thank you all so much for showing up here. This is awesome turnout. I know that the snow is pretty scary out there, so. Anyway, louder? I thought I was too loud. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Matt Royer. I am Nicole's campaign manager. Thank you. Yeah, so, you know, before I got into this race, I was, looking for a job, and someone told me that you should only take a race if you wholeheartedly believe the candidate, and I can tell you that 120% I am behind Nicole, because I feel like she will be the change that we need here in Arlington, Fairfax, and Loudoun County, and, she has been she's been so active in the civic associations, the Democratic Party as a whole, and I don't know anyone else who is more fit for this position. So, without further ado, I'd like to give it up for your next state senator, Nicole Merlene.
So much for being here tonight. I want to start with like a little bit of a game because this is such a fun crowd. How many of you guys know me from growing up here in Arlington or school? Just shout! And how many of you guys have I met throughout the Arlington civic process, the Democratic Party? Give me a little holler. Yeah. Awesome. So we've got a kind of fun crowd. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a background about who I am and what I am planning to do in the future. So I grew up here in Arlington County. I grew up actually in North Arlington. So I kind of feel like I was more closely associated with the Fairfax part of this district than a little bit the other areas. So when I decided to come back to Arlington to live in the Metro corridor, I was like, I grew up here. How do I give back? And can you hear me?
There you
Is this better?
There you go.
And so, how do I give back? And so I joined my local civic association because, frankly, how many of you here have like a 5-figure salary, right? And you're trying to afford rent, you can't afford a car, you gotta live by the Metro corridor, and your Metro is literally catching fire. You can't get to work because the buses aren't taking you to work. Your buses are taking you to another transfer. When you're getting on the Metro, we're throwing spaghetti at a wall with our transportation system. And then when you come back to your apartment, you're going to an apartment that you're paying way beyond your means in order to afford, probably past 30% of your income. And when you do that, you're trying to continuously find the cheapest rent, right? You're trying to figure out what the best deal is. And so you're throwing away your security deposit year after year. Thousands and thousands of dollars. And we had this thing called the Tenant Landlord Act of 2017 that drove me absolutely bonkers. Because you have people that aren't renting making these rules about what renters should expect from their tenant-landlord relationship. And it is scratching the surface of the true issues and when the rubber hits the road, what people are actually dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And so then I decided to get a little bit more involved. I started digging a little bit deeper. I got into the Economic Development Commission. And so we started talking about these kind of bigger issues like workforce development. And so when you're talking about one of the most costly decisions that you make in your life, going to college, right? So how much money are you spending going to college, grad school, God forbid, and then you're going to, law school, MBA, and you're being, in a lot of cases, if you're from Arlington County, like a lot of us, if you have a 3.7, 3.8 maybe, you aren't getting into the school that you want to get into, which is a lot of people. And then, once you do graduate, you aren't getting hooked up with the major employers in the area. So you aren't able to come back to the very place that you grew up in. And so the disconnect between our university system and our employers, it was appalling to me. And having gone to a different school system where we did that very well, I said, I'm so glad I didn't go to Virginia school. And when I came back, I said, this seems like an easy fix. This seems like if you were to just connect people in the same room, make a workforce development commission, you can really tackle these really easy to do issues. And actually put your money where your mouth is when you send your kid to school. And so when you're talking about some of the most major decisions in your life about where you're spending money, because when I think about what I want in a politician, I want them to make my life easier. I want them to go through my day and say, when you wake up, go to work, you got a good job, you can get to work, on time, affordably. And then when you actually are coming home, that you get a place that works for you. And so whether you're a renter, like me, or you're a buyer, and maybe you, like a lot of people in this room, I know you from when I was growing up, you might have bought your house at $200,000, let's say, in 1990s. Your assessments have gone up like crazy. And you are, when you come into this county in 1990, you probably also had a 5-figure salary. You weren't making 6 figures. And so as your assessments go up, and we got our new tax bill that's held in a high water for a lot of us, for the people that are, have a home that's worth more than $700,000, which is a lot of people that bought in really low, your taxes are going up like crazy. And that money is going down to the state in Richmond. They got a $500 million tax windfall from that tax bill. And you know where that's coming from? That's coming from this district. And we get less than a quarter on the dollar that we put in to Richmond. Less than a quarter. I'm a progressive. I'll tell you that through and through. I'm a progressive. But a quarter, less than a quarter. That's highway robbery for someone like me. And when I ask what I want from my legislator, I want them to fight for me. And I want them to go down to Richmond and say, I have a transportation system that's failing. I have a housing system that doesn't work for the people that actually live here.
Oh yeah, mama.
I haven't, we haven't funded the Virginia Housing Trust Fund to levels that are even above our county's trust fund. That's insane. We have to be diligent and targeted in the things that we expect from Richmond, and I think that the most pressing issues of our time are transportation, housing, the environment, and frankly unencumbered by special interests. Because when you're talking about making a good decision down in Richmond, I don't want you to be lobbying me. I've been lobbied by my representative on my civic association, on my commission. It's offensive. And so you take that, let's say, the Proffers Bill, 2016 Proffers Bill. We have a sitting representative taking tens of thousands of dollars from developers and then voting to basically let loose on the development community and not require that they give back to our communities. So when you look at Amazon, I think, frankly, we did a dang good job negotiating that deal. And we're getting in really good paying jobs, we're bringing in a lot of investment into an area that needed it with a high vacancy rate. And so when you're a Democrat, you're talking about getting revenues in, and so we did a good job of filling that vacancy. But our local government's hands are tied. As part of the Economic Development Commission, you kind of look at this holistically, and when you can't negotiate with the developer and say, okay, you overdeveloped in a zone that should have had this much density, you want to be able to say, okay, well then, will you invest in our infrastructure? Will you invest in our housing? Will you invest in our parks? And we're able to do that pre-2016. We can't do that anymore. And so we have legislators that voted for that Proffer bill, getting tens of thousands of dollars from developers. And it's really not helpful when we're trying to negotiate these massive deals. You can be pro-business Democrat without selling yourself.
Yeah, baby!
So, long story short, is that I'm just so happy you guys are all here. It's so heartening to see such a diverse and wonderful crowd. I don't think that I've quite said hi to all of you yet, but whether it was when I was, playing Little League, or, when I was, at the YDs, or when I was fighting for renters' rights in my civic association, I met you guys through so many different places. And I think that that's kind of what you need in your legislators, right? You need someone that can relate to you and that meets you where you are, and that is able to listen and is able to kind of really connect with you. So I think that this crowd is telling, and that I cannot wait to be the next state senator from Arlington, Fairfax, and
one thing beforehand. You know, campaigns ain't free, so if you can give us some donations.